This is where things got bad.
I'm about to die butt naked in this hot tub.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
All right,
this is just coming back.
to you? And I pick it up and they're like, hey, is this Andrew East? And I was like, yes.
Center for Disease Control.
They're like, do you have a couple minutes to talk? I was like, yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things.
With Shawn and Andrew.
A podcast all about couples.
And the things they go through.
Andrew, I think, is more excited about this series. It's going to be a 3-episode series we're about to do than any episode we've really done. And I'm not going to lie, so am I. We're going to go down memory lane a little bit. Andrew has compiled a long list of our most ridiculous couple stories.
Yeah, our most memorable couple stories. And I'm excited about this for a couple different reasons. One, we've been doing YouTube for 8 years now, which is a long time. But some of these stories happened before we were making videos about them. So uncaptured.
Most of these stories aren't on YouTube because they're like little snippets that we didn't capture that actually just happened in real time.
Right.
That we can only tell in the audio way.
Right. And then also, podcast is just like, we didn't always have a podcast, but this is such a fun format to like capture. This is really just selfish for Shawn and I to have these things solidified so that maybe our kids could listen to them. So I'm excited to like relive some of these too and just share them in all its glory without having to shove it into a YouTube video with all the clickbait and jump cuts and all the stuff. So.
I'm most excited to see the his versus hers
stories.
Yeah, because I think we're going to have very different perspectives on these.
Okay, where should we start? I know a good place to start. I want to start with my encounter with a bear.
That's what you want to start with?
Okay, no, you start. This is just a random list.
I was going to go in order.
You want to go in order?
Trinidad and Tobago is pretty good.
Okay, let's start in Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay, guys. So let's go back to 2015.
Yep.
Andrew was jumping around the NFL. We were engaged. Yeah, we weren't even married then, which is wild.
Yeah.
And Andrew, at this time, is kind of, your contract was technically on the wire. You had been cut by someone, and you were just kind of wandering around waiting for a call.
Doing the free agent NFL player life.
And in true Andrew fashion, by the way, there's a lot of laws against everything we're going to tell you. So, NFL, if you're listening, I apologize. Please don't sue us. So, his contract's on the wire. In true Andrew fashion, he's been having these side conversations with USA Rugby. As in, like, the Olympic national team rugby. You know some of the players. You've been talking to them, befriending them, telling them that you want to be a rugby player, all while you're in the NFL. Which, again, probably not legal. And out of nowhere, USA Rugby contacts you in this like 3-day time span. And they're like, how about you come do a tryout during a USA Rugby match against, who'd you play against?
It was a couple different teams. It was not a USA Rugby team jersey that I was wearing. But
no,
it was like
it was
one of the feeder teams. Yeah.
Why don't you just come play? In Trinidad and Tobago, technically Tobago.
Which is middle of the Caribbean.
Yes. And why don't you come do it tomorrow? Now, let me just give you the red tape here real quick. Andrews, technically, if your contract's on the wire, you're still contracted by the NFL. You went and played one of the most physical sports possible without your agent knowing. I think you technically lied to him. I think you lied to the coaches that were calling. All these things. But yet, here we were. We were like, how do we get a plane ticket to Trinidad and Tobago? Let's just hop on a plane.
So we go down there, and I'd never heard of Trinidad and Tobago. And I was excited to go to this exotic resort on this great adventure with my wife.
We thought it was Turks and Caicos.
I was not optimistic about my NFL career. I'm still not, to be honest. It was not working out. So I was in this position where I was like, well, here I am, like pretty much in the NFL almost. Surely I could play some other sport because NFL is the most competitive league out there. Let me try out rugby and I'll just do a quick Olympics with them, win a gold medal, and and then come back and play the NFL. That was literally my thought process.
Ridiculous.
Now, I've never really lacked for confidence in certain areas of my life, and others, massive lack of confidence. But so we go down there, Trinidad and Tobago, with this team. I'd never met any of these people.
By the way, getting to Trinidad and Tobago, you fly into Trinidad, which is basically like the main country. Then you have to, after you land in Trinidad, so you can't, you can't technically, oh my gosh.
Do you remember the plane ride, the puddle jump? I'm having flashbacks.
You can't technically
Person's
buy.
Dude.
Stop. Yes. Yes.
Oh.
You cannot technically book a trip from like Atlanta to Tobago. You can only book it as far as Trinidad. But Tobago is a separate island. We didn't really understand this. So you land in Trinidad and you're wandering out around a foreign country and you're like, I need to get to Tobago. And they're like, oh, you have to buy another plane ticket on this puddle jumper that goes from Trinidad to Tobago, which yeah.
So that in of itself is its own story. We got on this plane and it's like late pushing out of the gate and everyone's kind of upset. And apparently there had been a strife between one of the passengers who was like trying to get someone who hadn't bought a ticket,
her mother,
onto the plane by like, pressuring this flight attendant. And so at one point they turn around in front of the plane and they yell, "Who on this plane thinks they should let my mom on?" And like, I think they were expecting everyone to like get behind them and say, "Yeah, let them on." And no one was like, "No, let's freaking go. We're late. We're supposed to have pushed off 30 minutes." Anyway, that was funny. I'd never experienced anything like that.
Anyways, we land in Tobago and we land in the middle of the night because we've been traveling all day. Again, being so naive and dumb at our age, thinking it was like Turks and Caicos and there was going to be some Four Seasons resort. Couldn't get a taxi because it was like this like heckling situation. Someone tried to take our bags.
Wow. Yeah.
People were trying to hand us.
We couldn't find where we were supposed to stay either.
We couldn't find where we were supposed to stay. The communication with this team was not ideal.
It was not polished like the NFL is.
No. So we start walking, which I don't think I would recommend in hindsight. We find our hotel, which is surrounded by barbed wire fence. Looks as if it might fall down in a second, the building itself. We go inside, still can't find anybody. Try to check into this hotel. Can't even do that. Our names aren't on the list. It's all these things. Anyways, fast forward. We get into our room.
Yeah, you have to boil the water. There was no first aid kit. Foreshadow. Anyway, wake up the next day and go out to the first practice. I was hyped because Shawn had this sweet contract with Nike and she gifted me some really nice like soccer cleats because what you run in cleat-wise in rugby is different than in football. So she got me these soccer cleats. Never worn them before. I go out to my first practice with these brand new cleats on this Caribbean like clay soil.
It's like 100+ degrees.
It was hot. It was hard soil. We go out there and practice for like 2 hours. And within the first 15 minutes, I had blisters on my feet from all these different factors, which was not great, right? We go back. I'm in extreme pain, and literally my feet are falling apart. We have pictures of this with blisters, like skin just peeling off.
If you are watching on YouTube, this episode, we'll post the pictures so you can see.
So then we try to like start bandaging these blisters.
Okay, so here's the bigger issue. Andrew has no experience with like the blister situation and everything. That was my career. So I was very used to like traveling and dealing with like rips on your hands. Like that's part of gymnastics. So you were very lucky that I at least like knew how to handle this. But he had ripped off like the bottom of his feet. It was so bad.
It hurt so bad, dude.
And I was like, okay, I've seen the Chinese do it. I've seen the Russian do it. I know all these different techniques. We go to the the front desk. I was like, first aid kit. We at least need some alcohol. At least.
Nothing.
Something, because you would also, I don't know if you remember. Oh my gosh. This is just coming back.
To you?
You would also,
this is fun to relive.
An idiot. I am sorry, but I have no other words now that I remember this. You had taken off your cleats and your socks and walked on the sandy beach and into the ocean.
I thought that was gonna sterilize it. I thought the salt water would help.
Oh my gosh.
But what it did was just get sand into this blister.
And bacteria into these massively open wounds that you're walking around on.
That
Okay,
is so
so I
dumb.
go to the front desk. I ask for a first aid kit. I go to the rugby people, ask for a first aid kit. I go everywhere and ask for a first aid kit. Nowhere to be found. We finally find this like drug convenience store in Tobago that doesn't sell first aid kits. Those don't exist in Tobago. But they sold like, I think they had Band-Aids
And tea bags.
and tea
Remember?
bags, which is this whole Russian thing. Okay. So we get back to the hotel room and I'm like, this is all we got. We're going to have to make do. So I get water, put it on the stove, which we happen to have a stove in our room.
Because you had to boil the water to drink it.
Yeah. And I started boiling a ton of water. After the water's scalding hot, this is a Russian technique. I don't know if there's any science behind this, so don't try this at home. You boil the tea bags in scalding hot water, and then you almost like cauterize the wound
Well, you
with
just take
tea
the tea
bags.
bag and you put it on the wound. Yeah.
as hot as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So I had like rinsed it out with the boiling water, done all this. I had cut all the skin off with like some random something we found, maybe a butter knife. I don't even remember. And got you cleaned up.
It took a long time, and my feet at this point they weren't feeling better and better. They were feeling worse and worse because I'd done a lot of foolish stuff. Also, we weren't just asking for first aid kits. We were asking for like, just, hey, get us something to sterilize this with. We bought a bottle of like vodka.
We did buy a bottle of vodka.
We were looking for some type of alcohol. We were looking for Neosporin, anything, and it didn't exist.
Yeah.
It
We
didn't.
now travel with that. We
So,
now travel with our own first aid kit.
We were down there a total of 3 days. First day was practice. Second and third day were games. I'll tell you what.
You played with all these.
I played with the wounds and I was hurt. But the first time I touched the ball, I took that boy to the house. You feel me? I got a try in. I freaking
You
got
got
a
red
tutty,
carded.
as they say. That was the second game. I also had played rugby one season of my life. That was like 5 years before, so I forgot some of the rules, and I did get some penalties. So all in all, my rugby show out was like, I would say pretty good.
I need to add one more story.
Go ahead.
So as the games are happening, Andrew's like locked in on his own game. Whereas I am standing as a spectator and watching. There's like 7 other games going on. Guys are getting annihilated.
There's some athletes out there.
But like knocked unconscious, broken legs, being carried off the field on stretchers made of tarp, being put in ambulances that really couldn't operate. There were no athletic trainers. There were like, it was not like this like sanctioned event. So then some of the USA athletes are or like the athletes that you were competing with from the United States were coming to me and they're like, hey, do you know how to tape ankles?
Yeah.
And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And they're like, no, I need my ankles taped. So I became the athletic trainer,
Yeah, that was
and I was
clutch.
taping people's ankles. I was also making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on white Wonder Bread
Team mom.
for everybody. I became Team Mom
Yeah,
and
that's
Team
great.
Doc. But then you played 2 days. Mind you, we have no cell service at all. So during the entire day, all 3 days, we didn't have our cell phones with us. We left them in the room. The only time we got cell service is when we went back to the room and hooked up to Wi-Fi. So the very last day we're there, we go back to the hotel room. I think we might have even fallen asleep.
It was late. It
It
was
was late.
And yeah, I think it was like 7 p.m. I get a text from my agent who says, "Hey, the Giants want you to do a tryout." And I was like, "Sweet. Cool. Like, well, this is about to wrap up here in Trinidad and Tobago."
His agent also thinks he's in like Nashville.
We're about to wrap up here in Trinidad and Tobago. We'll go home. We'll take care of my feet thing, whatever's happening, and then I'll go. But he was like, I said, when do they want me there? He said, tomorrow at 6 a.m. Bro, I'll never forget. I can't believe that worked.
I don't know how it worked.
So
I don't know how it
we're
worked.
in the middle of the Caribbean, and we have to be in New York City by the next morning. We're talking like 11 hours.
I don't remember what time it was, but it was dark out.
Yes.
And we were laying in bed.
So we wrote a note to the team and said, "Hey, sorry we had to split early. They were doing like this big closeout party.
Yeah.
We missed. We go to the airport. We buy a ticket. fortunately, they had a flight available that got us in at like 2 a.m.
to
New York.
Miami.
Oh, yeah. We just bought a ticket to Miami.
Yes.
And then we had to figure out how to get to New York.
And then we
from
had to
there.
figure out to get to New York. But, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that hurt.
So we get to the Tobago airport. We catch a puddle jumper to Trinidad. We catch our flight from Trinidad to Miami. And then we have to figure it out there. Now, this is where things got bad. So Andrew's been playing for 3 days on these open wounds on his feet.
We're talking the ocean water and the sand, all these different tea bag things, the lack of sterilization, sweat, and continuing to wear on it.
And
jeez.
In Miami, I almost had to take you to a hospital. It scared me to death because from Tobago to Trinidad, you were complaining that you were in pain, which understandably, you had open wounds on your feet. We get into Trinidad, we start getting on the plane in Miami, and your legs are starting to swell.
Swell and get pretty red.
Red. So like from his foot to his knee, it's like hot, swollen, red, throbbing.
And I broke out in a fever.
Yes. By the time we landed in Miami, you had the fever, you had cold sweats. I was like, oh my God, you have like a infection.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And we get to the Miami airport and I was like, the least I can do is find a freaking first aid kit with some alcohol and some like antibiotic cream or something.
Wow.
And so we found a first aid kit in the Miami airport. I tried to clean you up some more there, contemplated taking you to the emergency room, but you were like, press ahead.
We got to get to this Giants workout. The New York Giants.
Somehow catch a flight to New York City. Do I recommend this? No. Should we have gone to the emergency room? Yes.
Good memes.
Yes.
We land early that morning, and we had a couple hours before I needed to be at the facility.
You can't even walk.
We got an Uber driver from the airport to the CVS before we went to the hotel, and Shawn had been hustling, trying to figure out like what's the best way to take care of the situation, both from an infection standpoint and so Andrew can like feel good about the tryout. Like he has to run around tomorrow.
Disclaimer, the best way to take care of the situation that we were dealing with was to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, okay. But
I just need to
that was not an option. So she gets all this stuff. We go to the hotel and like we spent again, it's like 2 a.m. We maybe had 3 or 4 hours where Shawn was like disinfecting, she was bandaging, she was we took a salt bath, I remember, or I was in a bath.
I don't know.
Oatmeal
I had been talking to like doctors from
Yeah.
here in Nashville, but again, within the NFL, you can't call NFL affiliated doctors because it has to be documented, all these things. So I was like calling other doctors. I'm like, what do I do in a whatever?
So I show up to this workout and we had numbed this with spray. I had taken a bunch of Advil. We did all the things that probably are not good in the long run.
I also remember right before you left the hotel, you were practicing walking.
Yeah, because
you didn't want them to know you were hurt.
It hurt so bad that I couldn't move around normally. I couldn't walk, much less run.
And with a tryout with the NFL, the very first part of your tryout is a physical with their doctors.
So
he was trying to pass the physical.
And I was like trying to hide it too. Anyway, I did a lot of things wrong is what I'm what I'm gathering here. And maybe that's why my NFL career didn't work out. But I showed up to this workout. I like did a decent showing, but definitely like one of my qualities that they were looking for is my speed down the field, and I was definitely lacking.
Yeah.
I was like very tender on my feet. I'm up there with like Tom Coughlin, who's like this NFL Hall of Famer coach, and it was like it's a very stiff environment. There's like 30 coaches, and I'm just literally trying to walk normal. Anyway, spoiler alert, I didn't make the Giants roster that year, and I ended up continuing my NFL career after that, though, because that sent me on several other tryouts because all the other teams saw that I tried out. And I also didn't make the Olympic rugby team. So,
but up until today, nobody in the NFL knew you were in Tobago.
Even my agent. Oh, also, the Giants were trying to buy my plane ticket. And they were like, hey, let's buy your ticket. And I was like, no, we're going to buy it because I didn't want them to see that I was in Tobago. I didn't want them to book a ticket from Trinidad and Tobago to New York to see, like, what is this guy on vacation or something?
Yeah.
So we had him reimbursed. Yeah, it was wild.
Ugh.
All right, listen, we'd like to thank today's partner, Needed. If you're a parent out there, you know that once you have kids getting a good night's sleep is a luxury.
Yes. And I don't know about you, but as a mom, I often feel tired but wired at the same time. Does that make sense? Which makes it really hard to fall asleep. There's always so many thoughts going through my head of things that I need to get done. I need to listen to the monitor. I need to whatever, all of it. And it can be hard to wind down. I started using Needed Sleep Support, and it's been helping us fall asleep better.
I agree. Men can use this product too. So for all my dads out there not getting a full night's sleep, trust me, you also need this product.
Andrew and I have been taking Needed Sleep and Relaxation Support supplement right before bed, and it's changed our sleep quality. I love the brand Needed because their products are created in partnership with over 4,000 perinatal and women's health practitioners, and they formulate their products with science-backed safe and effective ingredients.
Needed Sleep and Relaxation Support is chamomile-flavored powder that you mix with water. It's not bitter, and it doesn't leave a weird aftertaste. It's actually sweetened with monk fruit, so there's no added sugar that you're drinking before bed.
And for all the mamas out there, it's also safe during pregnancy and if you're breastfeeding, which is awesome because most sleep aids are off limits during that time. Learn more about Needed's complete line of products, which is all in our cabinet at home, including their sleep support and other women's health supplements at thisisneeded.com. Use the code FAMILYMADE for 20% off at thisisneeded.com.
We'll also link it down below. Let's get back to it. The next story is my showdown with a bear, face to face with a bear. Okay, so we might have mentioned that Shawn and I love East Tennessee, so much so that we got an Airbnb out there, which we can link details to. But it's this house that's on top of a mountain. It has this amazing panoramic view of like Great Smoky Mountain National Park, Pigeon Forge, Dollywood, all of it. And I go out there to check this place out for the first time. And I'm alone.
He goes by himself, doesn't pack a single thing. He's just like quickly going up and back.
Yeah, just to like make sure that everything looks good. We're about to have tenants start.
And hopefully a lot of you guys will actually go stay there because it's really cool. You'll know firsthand when you're there that like it is on the very, very tip top, isolated in the middle of nowhere, top of a mountain.
It's amazing. We'll include video footage. So I go up there and there's no one else around. There's no society close. There is a hot tub.
Yep.
And I decide, man, it would be such a great night to sit in the hot tub and to look at the stars just by myself. Like we just had a kid. It was big life changes happening. And I just wanted like a night to sit in God's glory. So I didn't pack a bathing suit. I'm butt naked in this hot tub, chilling, looking at the stars. Yeah. It's like midnight.
And if you guys like click the link below and like look at pictures, if you were to look at it, since the house is like suspended on the edge of a cliff almost, the hot tub is like suspended as well. So they're built up on these like
stilts.
So it's like built up and the only thing around you is like drop off.
Yeah. There's one entrance that's like a 3-foot wide gate. And
to the house.
That's how you walk onto this platform that's on stilts that's holding a hot tub.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there just like thankful. I was like, wow, what a night. When all of a sudden I hear rustling behind me.
Which you should not hear at this house because it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there's no people around. And at first I thought it was just the wind blowing the leaves. So I gave it a second and then I heard it very deliberately. It was something stepping on leaves. And my first thought was, this is a person up here.
Yeah.
Who knows this is isolated and I'm about to die.
Yeah.
I'm about to die butt naked in this hot tub. And I was like, literally, I was thinking through my options. Like, all right, if they have a gun, here's my plan A. If it's just a fist fight, I'm ready to attack. I'm ready to like take this guy down naked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to do whatever I need to do.
Swinging.
So I turn around slowly, and again, adrenaline is pumping because I was like, this is going down, and the leaves were like 10 yards away.
Yeah.
Turn around and I see something crawling, and I was like,
again, it's like pitch black out because it's in the middle of the forest.
So I still thought it was a person until it clicked that, oh my gosh, that's a bear. Which I don't know, is that better or worse? Would you prefer a person or a bear?
I think I would prefer a person.
It's a little, and so then I'm thinking, okay, here's a bear 10 yards away from me.
Yeah.
Literally, walking towards me, and I'm trying to remember this freaking saying of like brown bear, get down, black bear, whatever the thing is. And it's not, because it's such a panic situation, it's not coming to me.
I'm pulling it up so we all know.
Keep going. Pull up the saying. So I'm in this hot tub butt naked. And I was like, well, honestly, these are the thoughts going through my head. Honestly, if I die buck naked in a hot tub by a bear attack, that's a decent way to go. And I like shrink down so my head's just above the water. You know, a hot tub is like whatever, 5 feet wide. What's the saying?
Okay, it's everybody memorize. Say this 10 times, okay? Just because you're gonna encounter a bear someday. If it is brown, lay down. If it is black, fight back.
Okay.
If it is white, good night.
Good night. It means polar bears are the most deadly.
Polar bears, you ain't got no shot.
So I kind of dip down so my chin's just above the water, and I'm watching this bear.
You poop your pants in the hot tub?
No, I was like on it. I was like the most focused I've ever been in my life, trying to evaluate the different options that I have. So I have one exit, like Shawn was talking about.
Yeah.
It's like a 3-foot wide gate. The bear was crawling towards that. There was a chance for me to climb up on this railing and jump to the house, which would have been a pretty athletic, like
It's
5-yard jump.
Yeah.
That the bear probably couldn't have got me, or I could drop off the back of the cliff. Which I was like, but then I was like, okay, how does a bear do on a steep side? Like, could he crawl down and get me? So there was
a big drop off.
Not a lot of good options. Or fourth option was I fight the bear, which I was also ready to do. I was like, I'm gonna boop him right in the nose, freaking just boop him. But if he one swipe of that claw, I'm donezo.
And he was big.
I took a video, the story to follow. So I get down, the bear keeps crawling towards me. He puts his head over the far side of this hot tub. So I'm in the water on the far side. He puts his head over the other side. We're like 5 feet apart, making eye contact. It's like a showdown. And we're just staring at each other. And I'm trying to feel out the situation. Like, okay, I don't want to make any sudden movements. I don't want to get swiped by a paw. I take a deep breath.
And I'm like, splashed him.
I start, just to feel out how he's going to move, I start moving left to right. And he kind of froze up when I did that. And then I start moving left to right a little bit more, start like making bigger movements. And he paused, and then he would back up. And then I started putting my hands up, and I started making noise. And so I got the fact that he was a little skittish. So he backed up about 5 yards and like put his claws up on this tree. So much so that I had room to exit off of the platform.
Could you imagine?
So
think about being like just playing chase, that feeling.
This bear was as close as I am to you.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like the amount of like butt clenching.
Oh
feeling.
Yeah, as I'm making that run.
Yeah.
Oh, bro. So I sprint in this house, close the door, lock the door. I call Shawn. I'm literally trembling, sharing this story. I've never had that much adrenaline in my life. I was like so on edge.
I have never in my life heard you sound like that. And it started out as this like funny laughing conversation on my part, because I was like, babe, what's good? Because you were so adrenaline high and shock that you sounded giddy at first. And then as you're talking, it started sinking in. I was like, oh my God, he's scared for his life right now.
Yeah.
And then I started talking to you like, okay, babe, snap out of it. Did you shut the doors?
Yeah.
Did you lock the doors?
Well, I went out there, took a video of the bear, which we have, thank goodness. And then we closed all the doors. She's like helping me think through the situation. I still have to spend the night there. Like, it's now 1 a.m. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just so glad that I'm behind closed doors away from the bear. And Shawn generously shares this information. She was like,
the next morning.
No. She's like, oh yeah. This morning, I was watching this Today Show segment where they shared a story about a bear broke into a locked door. They undid the lock of a door and broke into this house. This is as I'm about to go to bed. So I lay there literally the whole night. I've never been that scared. I never have trouble sleeping. I was terrified that the bear was going to freaking break in and eat me alive.
Well, I will say at this house, there are like safety measures that we now understand are for bears. Like when we first went and checked this place out, they have like gates everywhere that have like double locks on them, and then the doors, and there's like a door within a door within a door. Like it's truly like bear proof. But because it was Andrew's first time visiting, we didn't understand that. And so as he's going to bed, I was telling him about the story that I saw on the news, and I was like, you need to make sure all of those doors and gates are shut. And he's like, I can't go back out there. What if he's downstairs? So poor guy didn't sleep at all.
Wild. Today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp.
I used to struggle with falling asleep at night because my mind would be racing, thinking about everything I needed to get done, and it felt impossible to turn my brain off. It's like I knew I needed to sleep in order to have energy for the next day, but my brain kept getting in the way of what I needed it to do.
I know what you mean. And that would happen to me even during the day. I would be trying to relax, but my mind would fill with thoughts about so many of the random things like work or kids. And this is a big reason that Shawn and I are firm believers in therapy because it can help remove distraction and help you figure out what's holding you back from being your best.
I agree. Andrew and I are very open about being supporters of therapy because we've seen the benefits in our lives firsthand. It's nice to be able to talk to a third party about what you're struggling with so you can help your mind work for you and not against you.
And honestly, having little kids, it's nice to just sometimes talk to a fellow adult every once in a while.
Yes.
But if you're considering therapy, BetterHelp is a great option. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you could switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. It's such an easy way to incorporate therapy into your routine because it's entirely online, so you can meet with your therapist whenever is best for you.
Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp.
Visit BetterHelp.com/EastFam today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/EastFam.
We'll also link it down below. Should we tell the E. coli story? How do you feel about that?
Okay, yeah. Last story for part one. Okay.
We have a whole list. Each one of these is a story, and we've shared 2 now.
Are we married yet? No, we're still engaged.
2015. We
Okay.
just gotten engaged.
So we had just gotten engaged. It was the summer. We fly. We're on like this heater of like flying place to place to place to place. We fly to State College, Pennsylvania, where I coach at like this gymnastics camp called Woodward. We spend a couple days there. On the very last day, we go to this meal, and Andrew eats like this completely raw steak. It's as raw as it gets.
So, yeah, we're in the middle of like Amish country. There's international people there. One of them orders like a raw steak, which is natural.
She ordered
to their
it
culture.
rare.
Natural to their culture.
Yeah.
They bring this steak out, and this is not like a restaurant. It's like somebody's house you're eating at.
And
That they had a cow in the backyard they just slaughtered.
Yeah.
Right? So I ate my steak that I ordered medium well or whatever back in the day. And this lady didn't finish her steak that was bleeding on the plate.
who we're friends with.
And she was like, Andrew, will you finish this? And I was like, not wanting to be rude. So I accepted it.
You were also in the middle of the NFL and you were like, yeah.
I ate the steak. Wait, we haven't talked about this too. I actually think I was part of the Chipotle E. coli breakout. You remember?
That would be different. That would be.
So around this time too, I was trying to pack on weight and I was eating Chipotle like twice a day.
We don't know where, forecasting, we don't know where the E. coli came from.
Yeah.
We
Either
have
this
suspicions,
raw steak
the raw steak or Chipotle.
yeah. Okay.
Anyways, fast forward from Woodward, from State College, Pennsylvania. We go to LA. We bounce around. We bounce around from city to city for
Indy, LA, Des Moines.
I know.
Because that's Des Moines.
I know.
Oh, no.
So we go to like 2, 3, 4 cities where we end up in Des Moines. Des Moines is our last stop before Andrew goes back to the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City, and I go back to Nashville. Now, we get to Des Moines, and Andrew is just like not himself. He's complaining about all these stomach problems. He's complaining that he literally cannot eat without having to run to the bathroom.
I mean, we were in LA doing the ESPYs red carpet. Like, that was our first big kind of event we did. I would even drink water, put anything in my stomach. I would have to sit on the toilet for like a half hour. Yeah. My stomach was wrecked.
And it was wrecked for a while. We had been on the road for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So we get to Des Moines. He's complaining about all this. And I was like, okay, let's make an appointment with my family. Oh, my God. I wanted to kill you.
Oh, man.
Let's make an appointment with my family doctor that I've like grown up going to. Get you in, get some like blood work, like whatever. Now, the conversations Andrew and I are having are clearly like something is wrong, right? So he cannot eat without like pooping his pants minutes afterwards.
Yeah, it was not good.
That was his symptoms. Has this been his whole life? No.
I'm so dumb.
No, it has not. That's an important thing to remember. This has not been his whole life. This has been like a recent occurrence for the past couple of weeks. So I get him into our family practitioner. I go in there with him. And it's like you and I in the office. I'm sitting in the corner, being a good fiance, not saying anything. Like, this is his, let him do his thing, whatever. The doctor literally walks in and says, "Tell me what's going on." And he goes, "Doc, I think I'm gluten intolerant. I need you to test me for gluten, basically, like a gluten intolerance or celiac." And I'm sitting in the corner. My eyes almost pop out of my head. And I was like, what? But then again, we aren't married at the time. We hadn't like figured out this dynamic completely.
It was trendy back then to be celiac.
It was trendy, huh? And I just notice immediately with this doctor, he writes him off. He's like, "Must not be bad." Andrew's like, "Oh, I kind of get like this upset stomach when I eat like bread." And guys, I am literally sitting there like,
this guy's an idiot.
Sorry. What is happening right now? And the doctor wraps this whole conversation up in 5 minutes. He's like, "We'll get a stool sample. You're good to go."
Which, by the way, if you've ever done a stool sample, you know it's one of the least pleasant experiences in life. So a pee sample is like fine. It's a little uncomfortable.
Stool sample, horrible.
You have to poo into like a bucket.
You gotta dish it out.
Like you know those little ice cream scoops they give you at the ice cream parlor that's like a sampler? You have to like scoop it out with that.
I think it was that day that I learned you are ridiculous.
And then you have to put it in this thing, like a smaller little container. And it was doing
I'm literally like, we walk out of that doctor's room to the lab where he has to do this. And I'm shook. I am like, either he is way blowing this out of proportion the past couple weeks where he's been telling me like literally poop is just flowing out of his body, or he's got a tiny little stomach ache and he thinks he's gluten intolerant and needs to change his diet. And I was like, who is this man?
Okay, now you were not saying who is this guy.
I was just like, I was appalled.
You're dumb.
Okay, so
fast forward. The doc says, "We'll get back to you in like 10 days. I'm going to Kansas City, I think it was like the next day.
The next morning.
For my first NFL training camp, right? And I go in there. I was like the favorite to make the team. And so we go out to practice. Every day before practice, we're doing hot tub. Every day after practice, we're doing community ice baths. Like, they had this big pool set up, like 50 guys could get into this ice bath with after. You're in a locker room, like sharing laundry. And anyway, I get a call about 3 days in.
No, longer. It was like a week.
Okay. From an unknown number. And I pick it up and they're like, "Hey, is this Andrew East?" And I was like, "Yes, this is Andrew East." "Who is this?" They said, "This is the CDC."
It was the CDC.
Like Department of Health, something like that.
Center for Disease Control.
They're like, "Do you have a couple minutes to talk?" I was like, "Yeah." "What is this? Like one of those spam surveys or something like that?" Anyway, they're like, "No, you've been diagnosed with E. coli. And we need to know every city you've been to and every person you've interacted with, every restaurant you ate at,
guys,
etc." So
guys,
I was
we were
like,
on a heater
of traveling.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, well, we went to State College. We went to Los Angeles, Des Moines, Indiana.
They're like, could you have traveled bi-coastal anymore and spread this to any more people?
And then we go through this whole thing. I share all this information. They're like, okay, well, here's the thing. You may or may not be contagious now. E. coli like spreads pretty good. If there's one takeaway, just don't be with many people publicly where you could be swapping stuff, and don't get in any communal bodies of water.
Yeah.
And I'm just reflecting on these ice baths.
With the entire NFL team.
Of the Kansas City Chiefs, who has now won like a couple Super Bowls.
And hot tubs.
Spoiler alert, didn't make that team either. But fortunately, there was no other E. coli outbreaks on that team. So big win for them.
Also, spoiler, his stool sample came back and he is not gluten intolerant, guys.
Just E. coli. So unpleasant experience. Gosh, I never had a chance. I never really gave NFL my full focus, did I?
Never.
I was scared though, because I was feeling bad, but like I was very much in this mindset of like, I have to make the team. And I don't want to like be sick for my first couple of days of practice. right?
Yeah. Yes.
You get that.
But
Like, oh, hey, here's this rookie, and he missed the first week of practice because he had a stomach bug. That could have been a reality for sure.
I think it's a little bit more than a stomach
well,
bug.
but you don't know that in the moment. I didn't
I
get the
know.
call until like in retrospect, it's like, oh yeah, he had E. coli. Obviously, he said that. But anyway, it's not a good situation regardless. This was fun.
This was fun. They only go up from here, guys.
We
They
have a
only
lot
get
of stories.
more outrageous.
We just can't capture everything into YouTube video.
I'm really glad we didn't capture that into a YouTube video, babe.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, we're excited to share more of these. Excited to hear what you guys think. Make fun of me as much as you want. I'm here for it. Just, do it in good spirits. But we've been through a lot, babe.
We have. I think we're gonna need more than 3 episodes for this.
We might. We gotta curate some of these stories because some of these are just for you and I.
Really?
Yeah.
Like,
But we have a whole list. Anyway, thanks for making it this far. If you haven't yet and you're listening to this portion of the show, please give this episode a thumbs up. Subscribe to this show wherever you're listening. And we'll see you next time. I'm Andrew.
I'm Shawn.
We're the East Fam. Out.